So here is ours and your Rusk County Fallen Heroes Memorial. The benches will now be unveiled by each post commander and auxiliary presence as they each sponsor the bench. Veteran leadership, will you please post? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do these one at a time. We're going to do these one at a time. We got everybody in place. We're missing, oh, here they come. Before you stands all your veteran post commanders and auxiliary leadership, ladies auxiliary leadership. Some of them are, there's one or two that are missing, but we got people standing in. First, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present York Kohler American Legion Post 316 and auxiliary from Sheldon, Wisconsin, commanded by Robert Rosalowski and auxiliary president Roxanne Cameron. Next, I'd like to present the Rusk County Disabled American Veteran Post and Auxiliary, Chapter 33, Ladysmith, Wisconsin, commanded by Dennis Wood and auxiliary president Suzanne Jennerman. Ladies and gentlemen, next I'd like to introduce Veterans Memorial Association and Auxiliary, Ladysmith, Wisconsin, commanded by Richard Baltz and auxiliary president Joyce Link. Next, I'd like to introduce Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 5780 and Auxiliary, Weyerhaeuser, Wisconsin, commanded by Tom Bush and Auxiliary President Linda Prorock. Next, I'd like to introduce Hollow Peter Bathke, Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2490 and Auxiliary of Ladysmith, Wisconsin, commanded by Walter Johnson and auxiliary president Paulette Forehand. Next, I'd like to introduce American Legion Post 268 and auxiliary from Bruce, Wisconsin, commanded by Bob Franzen, auxiliary president Debbie Swenson. More along, American Legion Post 64 and auxiliary from Ladysmith, Wisconsin, commanded by Dan Nigro and auxiliary president Ann McCain. In our last bench, the Cuff Patricky American Legion Post 174 and auxiliary Hawkins, Wisconsin, commanded by Ryan Seidenbender and auxiliary president Luann Oren. That's 8 out of the 9 posts. The number 9, Baco Weibert AMVETS Post 127 did not sponsor a bench, but they sponsored the panels, the cross, and the statue. I am the commander of that post, and our auxiliary president is Beth Bettenhausen. That being said, Beth, would you come forward and unveil the soldier cross? Again, that memorial was bought and paid for by the efforts of Sergeant Wasbeck and Sergeant Wassman. Back in World War II, when they lost a soldier on the battlefield, because the events and the fluidity of the maneuvers and the advancement, it was so quick and so fast, they didn't have a lot of time to spend with the soldiers that they lost, but they had to mark the place where they fell. So it would take that soldier's, that serviceman's weapon, affix a bayonet to it, thrust it into the ground, and set their helmet on it to mark the fallen friendly servicemen there, that they could recover that individual as they continue to advance. That's the symbol of that memorial there, and we continue to use that today. Okay, the rest of the memorial will be unveiled one piece at a time by the members of AMVETS Post 127. So if I could have those gentlemen come forward. Okay, at this time, we're going to unveil the center panel first. At the top, at the peak, is the seal, the Great Seal of Wisconsin. The 5 branches of the military are represented on there, as well as the POW-MIA emblem. There is also a quote by FDR. It is in your program. It is placed at the bottom. I'll let you read that for yourself. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2-wing panels, but we're not going to unveil them just yet. We're going to wait for the train to go by. So that'll be about 10 minutes, so just take it. No, we're going to talk about those 2-wing panels. Those 193, they were killed in action, they died of wounds, in prison camps, they died in accidents, they died on land, sea, and in the air. They also died from diseases where most are curable today. New technology always becomes of age in a time of war, and we lost servicemen and women to that new technology. They died in combat wounds, they died in biplane crashes, jets, tanks, poison gas, machine guns, enhanced formed projectiles, otherwise known as EFPs or IEDs, booby traps. They died in Japanese, German, and Chinese prison camps. Nuclear submarines that went down, vehicle accidents, and many, many more incidences. These men were all present in every major campaign of every war we ever fought. All were in the service at the time of their death except one. One from Vietnam. He was severely wounded and died afterwards, but his name was added to the National Vietnam Veterans Wall, and if they thought enough about his wounds to add him there, we certainly could add him here. There are also 5 sets of brothers on those panels, spanning World War I, World War II, and Korea. Several men went to Canada, not to avoid war, yet to get into the war. There were four county boys that died while serving in the Canadian Army, 3 in World War I and 1 in World War II. Some of those last names that are on that wall are generational. In other words, they had family members that served in one war and family members that served in another and lost the family or extended family had passed. Rusk County lost 45 in World War I, 97 in World War II, 13 in Korea, and this is also the era where they were here stateside or overseas in service during those time periods. 10 in Vietnam, 4 in the global war on terror, and 24 in peacetime, totaling 193. Some are buried in Rusk County or adjoining counties. Some are buried in Arlington. Some in battlefield cemeteries overseas. Some were lost at seas, and some were never recovered. They are listed alphabetical by conflict with the first name, middle initial if known, and last name. The panels are also printed in the same government Optima style as what is on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, please, if you would, unveil the walls. There they are. Every one of them. At least that we know about. Last summer, one of our members was on a vacation and by accident, purely by accident, over by Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, found this statue, and at the time it wasn't for sale, because many veterans organizations wanted it in front of their clubhouse. And the owner of it said it wasn't for sale when the Post members called. And we told the businessman that we wanted that statue for this memorial, and he said he sounded like it was a perfect place for it. Well, he changed his mind when we talked to him, and he said he'd sell it to us. So we bought it. And he delivered it personally 2 days later from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is the only one, it is a prototype, let's put it this way, it's a prototype for a bronze statue, and it's cast in concrete. And it's the only prototype made, so there are no others. And there may be one bronze one out there somewhere, but this is the only one of two maybe, but only one in concrete in the United States, and it's here. We think you'll agree that it was meant to be here. Please, would you guys unveil? You know, it's as if he's bringing his buddy here to this place. How profound is that? The last thing I'll unveil is the plate that is at the base. That plate is a U.S. Army warrior ethos. It comes from the soldier's creed. It's something that I've lived with for 39 years in the Army and Army Reserve. It says, I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. And I will never leave a fallen comrade.